Hi. Today I've got a workshop about pronunciation and I'm going to share with you my thoughts and approaches to teaching pronunciation to students. Enjoy. I've got to go to a meeting now and this crazy cat is climbing everywhere. She's getting much bigger than the last time you saw her, and they both play well now, don't they? Yes, they do. They play quite well, get on well together. No hissing, no fighting, none of that. So I've got to go, get a bus, get to this meeting for 12, and then deliver a workshop about teaching pronunciation. Well, it's not a workshop about teaching pronunciation, but it's a workshop for students about pronunciation. So I've got to go down there, deliver this workshop from 1 till 2, and then I've got a class 3 till 4:30. So I'll see you in a bit.
One step 달려와줘 like a little 말 사랑한다고
Hello. Okay, so I'm all done for the day. I'm going to head home and we're going to talk about pronunciation and why we need to do pronunciation in the classroom. See you in a bit.
파란 하늘을 시원하게 뻗는 highway road 야자수 아래 우린 Cadillac drive Your shine
Right, I'm back home now. Welcome and thank you. Well, today's been a rather busy day. I had that meeting at midday / lunch with a colleague, followed by a pronunciation workshop which I gave to one student who turned up. Not everybody turned up. There were 4 students who booked and just one turned up. I was accompanied by a fellow colleague who wanted to learn a little bit more about pronunciation and what to introduce to students when it came down to pronunciation. When it comes down to pronunciation, it took me a good 7 years, as I mentioned before in a previous video, of getting used to and feeling more confident and comfortable about teaching pronunciation to students. Part of that is because pronunciation itself is usually often overlooked, and I overlooked pronunciation as a skill to students. In my early years of teaching English, I never touched upon pronunciation. The only times I did was really to correct errors, but the more I dived into the subject of pronunciation, once I decided to take that leap and learn about pronunciation, I discovered that there's a lot more than correcting the pronunciation of students' speech. When I started the workshop for the one student who turned up, I introduced some discussion questions and things to get the student aware of when it comes down to pronunciation. I had questions such as, what is pronunciation? What are the biggest issues that you have between pronunciation in English and your first language? As well as, what do you find easy and difficult about pronunciation in English? The student didn't necessarily have any answers for what is pronunciation. They thought it was all to do with the sounds and the tongue and how you produce the sound, which is partly correct, but there's a lot more to pronunciation. If we look at pronunciation itself, there's things such as word stress, sentence stress, as well as the phonemic chart. And for me, the biggest issue that I had when it came down to pronunciation was the phonemic chart. I didn't feel comfortable about using and teaching pronunciation with the phonemic chart, and it just looked like a new language to me. So in the end, I decided to put it off for a good 7 years until I came across the book of pronunciation. And this book really gave me the skills and the confidence to actually teach and incorporate pronunciation in the classroom, either as an independent workshop like I did today, or with individual elements when I'm correcting students or starting to expand and develop a student's pronunciation with new vocabulary. I've got to go in a minute because I've got an online class, and gosh, look at her, she's starting to get, she is getting bigger. Yeah. I've got to go and do a couple of things. I'll see you back in a moment once I've finished my classes for particular students online. I'll see you back here in a minute. I'm all done with my lessons for now, and I'm going to be slowly winding down for the evening. It's 20 past 8 now in the evening, so it's been a relatively busy day. In terms of pronunciation themselves, this was the book that I referred to when it came down to preparing for today's workshop. I also introduced the student to a couple of discussion questions about pronunciation. I thought I'd share my input and my insight into teaching pronunciation and how I overcame that difficulty initially. And much like anything in life, you just got to start. And there I was. I bought this book all those years ago, and I thought, I'm going to make a start. I really want to try and teach pronunciation into my, incorporate it into my lessons. And like any language that you learn, with the phonemic chart being a separate language, I found that I made quite a few mistakes initially, but you learn from those mistakes. And then incorporating the phonemic chart into my lessons, as well as word stress and sentence stress, certainly improved my confidence and the learner's confidence into developing their pronunciation. When you incorporate some of the pronunciation and the phonemic chart into your lessons, once you've introduced the vowels and the diphthongs and the consonants, the students will feel a lot more comfortable about pronouncing particular new words. In today's workshop that I held, I introduced the vowel sounds and a few of the more complicated consonant sounds. And I introduced very briefly the diphthongs, where two vowels combine together. And the student was feeling a lot more comfortable. The one student that I had. And I'm pleased that student did turn up, because they were able to take away the necessary skills to adapt and adjust for pronunciation and to develop their own skills initially. And I always try and leave a few tips for students to incorporate when it comes down to their pronunciation. And the first thing that I would always recommend students to do is to spend just a little bit of time becoming more aware of the phonemic chart, so that they can start to read the dictionary, and when they learn a new word in the dictionary, the phonemic transcription will be included, and the student could then know how to pronounce that particular word. The second recommendation that I have for students is, to use their phone. And, if they're using their phone, they can record themselves. They can play, if they use an online dictionary like Oxford Learners Dictionary or the Cambridge Learners Dictionary, they can play that recording of the word online. You don't need to pay for it, and it's relatively accessible nowadays. All you need is an internet connection. They can play the audio from that word, and they can listen to the recorded audio that they recorded themselves. They can then compare, and that would be my second tip. The third tip would be to listen and write as much as possible. And, if they hear a new word, try and write it down. Don't try and focus too much on the spelling just yet, but focus on how to write. You're listening and you go, okay, I'm going to write that particular word or phrase that I heard. That would always be a good step forward. My final step or my final recommendation for students when it comes down to pronunciation, for them to develop the confidence and skills, would be to focus on particular problematic sounds that they consider are problematic. And so if you are teaching Thai students, for example, it could be consonant clusters, or it could be particular vowel sounds that aren't in their first language. Whatever the difficulty is, focus on that, and then students will be able to take that, focus on the difficulties, develop the awareness, develop the skills, and improve their own pronunciation. And the reason we do that is really to give the students the repertoire necessary to pronounce words effectively, not just for native speakers of English, but for other non-native speakers of English, for that mutual intelligibility. So that would be my recommendation when it comes down to giving advice and tips for students who want to improve their pronunciation over the course of their language learning. And it's always a good idea to incorporate or focus on pronunciation as much as you can, whether you're introducing new vocabulary or if you're going to be sharing new phrases or connected speech, that sort of thing. It's usually a great idea to incorporate it. So yeah, what's your advice when it comes down to pronunciation? How do you incorporate it into the class?